Today on the DML News Podcast, it's an Ask DML episode. You have questions, I've got answers, and it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Across from me is my son Denny. On the controls, my son Ryan. We come to you every single day here trying to bring you the truth, insights, and opinions on all the news and policy that is shaping America. And I will be really happy when Trump finally takes office because, man, if you thought it was a long road to the election, it's even longer to the inauguration. So much going on in terms of the picks, and is the Congress going to go to the GOP, fully with the Senate and the Congress? What's happening over in California? There's so many things going on right now, and it's so hard to find your footing. Speaking of which, just real quick, before the election took place, I told all my CBD customers and even people who were thinking about being CBD customers that DML CBD, which has become, as far as I'm concerned, the most trusted CBD product in the world, let alone the country, I just feared that a Harris presidency would actually force us out of business because inflation continues to make everybody's prices go up. And over the course of time, we've seen it that it's been very hard to be profitable and to help our customers at the same time. And we made a decision. It was going to be no more BOGOs, no more buy one, get one frees with Harris. With Trump, luckily winning, we could go back to the BOGOs. But I'm not going to be able to do them again on a site-wide basis where everything that we have is a BOGO opportunity until Trump takes office. And who knows how long it's going to take for that inflation to go down and for profitability for everybody to go up where you have more money in your pocket. Hopefully it's faster than we all think. But right now we're having our last buy one, get one free site-wide BOGO until Trump takes office, and I don't know how long it's going to take after that. So please, if you're an existing customer, get in there and get what it is that you need to build that bridge to buy one, get one free. So this way you're not coming to me a month and a half from now and buying it at full price. I mean, it's better for me for you to buy it at full price, but I'm thinking of you and not us. So please, dmlcbd.com/BOGO, BOGO. If you're not using CBD, if you've got ailments of skin issues, low immune system, you want to strengthen that immune system, you want to improve your sleep, you want to rid of the aches and pains, or if you want to curb the anxiety, you got to give DML CBD a chance. Go there, dmlcbd.com, look at all the products, look at what they could do for you, read some of the testimonials. If I were to take all the testimonials and lay them out, it would be 10 miles long, I think. So we have changed so many lives, tens of thousands of lives over the last couple of years. And like I said, our products are the best in the world as far as I'm concerned, double tested in most cases. The ingredients get tested, and then we make the product, and then it gets tested as a finished product, so this way we know it's safe. So with that being said, dmlcbd.com/BOGO, BOGO, for the buy one, get one free. It completely ends this Sunday. All right, Dennis, that said, what's our first question?
Esther Steve Ream, what is your opinion on Trump's picks so far?
Well, there are a lot of picks, and what we could do is we go one by one. You could read them out to me, but let me just say this in the beginning. I've thought of this because there have been a couple of picks that I have looked at and shook my head and said, what is he doing? Why is he pulling from Congress? We're barely holding on by a string. Why is he picking somebody who doesn't really have any managerial experience at that level? And I'm talking about Pete Hegseth. And we could go down each one, but overall, I think we have to remember something when it comes to Trump and Trump's picking of his cabinet members and people who are non-cabinet but are now taking on very, very important roles like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. No man walks on water. There was only one to ever do that, and he hasn't won the election. And we have to remember that Trump has always had his back against the wall one way or another, and somehow he always comes out winning. Now, if there was one thing about Trump that I think is maybe his Achilles heel, is that he's not the best when it comes to picking people. His first administration, he picked a lot of losers, had to go through a lot of people. If you look back, look at Michael Cohen. I mean, how the hell did he pick him for a lawyer? There was a bunch of these examples. However, Trump is more experienced now than ever before. So although I'd like to criticize the Marco Rubio decision, if that's the way it's going to lean, although I may not totally agree with why he's pulling people from Congress, at the end of the day, I voted for Trump because I have complete faith in him. And I think his decisions ultimately will wind up working out for all of us. Those that don't, he will rid of them and he will replace them. But I think the days of second-guessing Trump should be over. And we should just coalesce and 100 support him no matter who he picks. He's got a reason why, and it's not for our understanding. It's for our benefit. And so let's just hope that that's where things go. But if you want to name a couple of people, I'll give you my gut reaction.
Secretary of State, it's looking at Senator Marco Rubio. Secretary.
I don't understand why he would pick Marco Rubio, to be quite honest. I wouldn't pick Marco Rubio. He has a long history of leaning towards the Rhino system. He was great friends with McCain. He likes Lindsey Graham. He was in on it with Flake and those two others when it came to 2013, the Comprehensive Immigration Reform Act that Obama was loving. This guy has told us he would never do anything like amnesty, but yet his first opportunity, he tries to do it. I don't trust Marco Rubio, but for some reason, Trump sees something in him, so I'm going to go based on Trump's opinion, but it wouldn't be my first pick.
Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem.
Again, can't understand it. Kristi Noem has really no experience at all with the border. In fact, her state is about as far away from the border as you could get up in South Dakota. She is bright, she is fun, she's likable, but at the end of the day, is she going to be able to carry out what needs to be carried out as the Department of Homeland Security chief? I don't know. I can't understand the pick. I think there are a lot of people that would have been 100 times better, but again, my faith is going to rest in Trump.
For the leader of the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, Lee Zeldin.
Don't know what Lee Zeldin does know and doesn't know about EPA, about environmental stuff. I do know that he served proudly in the United States Armed Forces. He was a great congressman in the 1st District on Long Island where we lived. He was my congressman, never had a problem with him. Ran for governor in New York, almost won as far as I'm concerned. He's a great guy, smart guy, loyal to America, and I'm sure there's got to be a reason why Trump picked him beyond his knowledge of environmental issues.
For his border czar, Tom Homan.
The best pick so far. The best pick so far. It is the one pick that he's made that makes me say we are going to see significant change finally at our border and in our deportations.
Elise Stefanik for U.S. Ambassador to the UN.
I can't understand it. We have such a slim margin right now in Congress, and he's picking between her, and then he also picked Walz for, I think, National Security Advisor. These are two people that have a great standing in Congress and the House. He's picking them from the group, forcing a special election in these places. But again, I'm going to reemphasize, I'm going to stick with Trump. But I mean, they're both loyal people, they're both smart people, and I would imagine they're going to do well at their capacities.
Just to finish up, one of the things he's doing is the Department of Government Efficiency, and he wants Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead it. He put a statement out last night.
Yeah, I'm not really certain how that whole thing is going to play itself out. I mean, Vivek is a strong-minded person. Elon is extremely strong-minded, and I think pulls more weight because he has, X, formerly known as Twitter. He's also the richest man in the world. And I think Trump gives Elon Musk the sort of respect that he won't give many other people. So this is really going to be Elon's playground. With that said, I'm sure Elon and Vivek will become very, very good friends. So this is going to be great for Vivek's career, especially his political career, as he wants to be president one day. But whenever you put Elon Musk on anything, it's going to be beneficial. So I think we're all going to win from this. I love the idea of having somebody go in there with the Elon Musk prowess that he does about when it comes to cutting expenses and looking at technology and improvements. We may actually get our government working again, which is just phenomenal. So I give Trump a lot of credit. You didn't say Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense. I don't understand that pick. We're talking about somebody who's never run anything of size, now having to run 1.3 million people in the armed forces. I think from a perspective of being able to carry out what is best for veterans and for active military, great. I would have maybe put him in charge of the VA. But now this man is the conduit between how it is that we do or do not fight a war. So I don't know how serving in the military and then being a host on Fox and Friends says this is the right person for this. But at the end of the day, Trump sees something in him. I don't know, Pete. It's funny, he came into Fox News around the same time I was at Fox News. I never ran into him. I hear he's a really swell guy. So hopefully he'll be able to do it. And let me tell you something. If he can't do it, trust me when I tell you, he'll be packing his bags.
Yeah. So our next question comes, it's more of a statement leading to a question. Georgia Smith. Hi, DML. I know this is not a question per se for your podcast, but I thought I might as well post it here so maybe you'll see it. I would love to see at some point a documentary made by someone trustworthy, meaning you, that clears Trump of all the charges made against him. A documentary made clear, here's the charge and here's the proof that the charges are garbage. I have so many who are repeating and believing that Trump is a felon and a rapist and yada, yada, blah, blah. It would be wonderful to be able to say to them, hey, watch this documentary. I have voted for Trump 3 times. So I guess her overall statement or question was, would you entertain a documentary of that kind?
Maybe. Although I really think this is unfolding in such a way that the future is going to speak for itself. And I think the future is what Trump can rely on, that his presidency is going to be great for all people, not just MAGA people. When people sit there on Twitter or X, wherever, and say, how did America elect a man who's been convicted of 34 felonies? Well, you got to go back and you got to take a look at the felonies. These were misdemeanors that had passed the time frame to where they should have even been able to go after him, statutes of limitations. And what they did in New York was they found some creative way of trying to make this into a felony. And so if I were sitting with somebody, I would ask them, hey, let's just make the person's name Bill. Hey, Bill, 10 years ago on your tax return, you bought a pair of sneakers and you put those sneakers under travel mistakenly when it should have been under clothing. Yeah. Do you think that you should go to jail for that? Should you get nailed for a felony for that? And if Bill believes that he should, well, then there's nothing you're going to be able to tell Bill that's going to make him change his mind that Trump should be held on a felony charge because he put legal expenses under legal expense. I mean, that's what he did. He assigned a legal expense under the column of legal expense, and they tried to say that that was an incorrect application. That's how stupid it was, and it was beyond the statutes of limitations. If Bill says, what are you, crazy? You're going to send me to jail because I put my sneakers in the wrong column? Yeah. Well, that's what they're doing to Trump. So that's how I would go back at somebody who's trying to do this. I think what's going to wind up happening, just like the first time, maybe even more so this time, Trump's first presidency was going fantastic up until the time of COVID. COVID was an anomaly that we have never seen before, and I don't think anybody could have survived that on an upside as a president because the goalposts were always moving. But if you look at Trump, his first presidency, they said we were going to, prior to him taking it, they said the stock market was going to crash, the economy was going to crash, and we were going to go to World War III. We had no wars. The world had never been a safer place, and the economy had never been better in my 50-plus years. I think what you're going to see now is the same thing. All these warnings of these crazy liberals about what Trump is going to do and not do is going to fall flat on its face. And ultimately, what will happen is people will have better jobs, more money in their pocket, less tax burdens, more opportunities. It doesn't matter what your skin color is, what your creed is, nothing. You are going to do better than ever before. And slowly but surely, these nuts who people are dealing with every single day that are saying that the world is going to crumble will be eating a lot of crow. And ultimately, that's the way it's going to be.
Kathy Jones Schwartz. I've heard rumors of Biden stepping down so Kamala can become president for the remainder of their administration. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but what is your opinion, DML?
My opinion on this is very, very straightforward. Stop reading these crazy lunatics that are writing these sort of things online. Look at the facts. Joe Biden, if anything, seemed to try to end Kamala's opportunities. He said a lot of things and did a lot of things there at the end that were very questionable. And you can make an argument that he hurt her case even more than she hurt it herself. I watched a video yesterday. I don't know where they were, but Jill Biden was sitting next to Kamala and didn't even give her the time of day, gave her the cold shoulder. I think that Joe Biden is furious. I think he has seller's remorse. I think he believes that he should have been the candidate and that he would have beat Trump. And so now he's got to have this with him, and there's nothing he could do for the rest of his life on it. I do not believe that Joe Biden is going to give up the last 2 months of his time in office for Kamala Harris at all. Unless the man croaks and falls over, he is going to suck up every minute he possibly can of being president because he fought his whole life to get there. And so I think he's going to pardon his son. I think he's going to do whatever he can to leave whatever kind of legacy he can. It may be a little dangerous along the way, but believe me when I tell you, he is not going to give up his seat for Kamala.
Cindy Shenette. What happens to the seats in the Senate when senators are chosen for President Trump's cabinet?
Well, this is a state-to-state thing. So let's just use Florida, all right, because I can't go through all 50 states, but let's use Florida. If Marco Rubio is indeed the Secretary of State for Trump, what winds up happening is now we're going to have a vacant seat in Florida. Under the Florida rules, Governor DeSantis has the power to appoint somebody. We don't need to have a special election. He could appoint anybody he wants. He could appoint his wife. He could appoint me. He could appoint his chief of staff. He could appoint whoever. He can put that person in place. Now, there is actually a benefit to Florida, if you think about this. If you don't like Marco Rubio, and I don't like Marco Rubio, and I love Ron DeSantis, the thought is that Ron DeSantis is going to put somebody in that seat that's going to be really good and really strong. Now, with that in mind, there would be a special election 2 years from now in 2026 to vote somebody else in there to finish out the term. I wouldn't be surprised if DeSantis doesn't put his wife in that position. I believe that DeSantis, because he could only run based on the Florida Constitution, unless he changes it with the support of the legislator here, his term is up in 2026. DeSantis does not want to leave politics. So it would be the natural progression for him to do exactly what Rick Scott did. Rick Scott was the governor here in Florida for 2 terms and then ran for Senate. So this way he could stay in politics, because I think ultimately he had the idea that he was going to run for president one day. So I can see DeSantis taking that same sort of trajectory. So he stays in Florida, and he would win in a landslide victory if he were to run in the next election for the Senate seat. So in this particular case in Florida, it winds up being that the governor will appoint somebody.
Cindy Rayborn. I would love to know the pros and cons for Donald Trump's tariffs on China. I've researched it a little and understand a little, but I need some good ammunition for liberal attacks on the subject.
It's amazing when you listen to Democrats and anti-Trumpists and even some economists. They will tell you that tariffs are the same thing as a tax. And the way that they try to justify this is, let's say, for instance, that something is sold to the United States or to a manufacturer, that case, whatever it may be, from China, sells something to a reseller here in New York, in Florida, let's say they sell it for $10. What Trump is going to do now is he's going to put a tariff on that to the people of China and to the manufacturer. You're going to have to pay more than the $10 because what Trump is trying to do is he's trying to create a level playing field. In the United States, we have a lot of costs associated with labor and creating products. I'll give you an example. All right, take anything. Make this magic marker here. Right, in the United States, if I've got to make this in my warehouse, I need employees, and those employees, the Social Security tax and insurances and all the other different fees and taxes I have to pay. Create it so this way I can make this magic marker for 50 cents. But in China, they use child labor. They don't have the same sort of cost structure and fees that we have. So instead of making this for 50 cents, they could wind up making this for 5 cents. And then what they do is they wind up selling it to somebody in the United States for 30 cents. That reseller can sell the Chinese thing for a lot lower than I can as an American company, because I paid 20 cents more. So it's impossible for me to compete against the Chinese product. So what Trump will do is he's now going to put a tariff on it. So this way, if nothing else, we're both at 50 cents, or maybe even to where China is wind up paying, it ultimately is 55 cents versus America at 50 cents. The argument there is going to be that the American citizen is going to wind up paying the price because we no longer can buy that cheap magic marker. We've got to buy American products. In the end, even if it costs the American citizen a couple of points more, it doesn't matter. For as long as we are vulnerable to the Chinese, who can cut off supply to us at any given time, for example, the majority of medicines that are in your cabinet are coming from the Chinese. What if they decided that they no longer wanted to sell us those products? What about if they no longer wanted to sell us any of the things that we're buying from them, that we are depending on them? So what Trump's case is, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, is, look, you may have to pay a couple of cents more, or a couple of bucks more for things that you use in your household. A, they're going to be built better because it's not Chinese made. It's made here in the United States of America. And number two is, long term, it will protect you more. And hey, I'm going to lower your taxes in other areas. So this way, if nothing else, it will even itself out, or you'll still come ahead. So in the short term, it may feel like you're having the Band-Aid ripped off and the hair is being pulled from your arm. But in the long term, trust me when I tell you, it is better that Americans wind up getting the jobs that they're losing right now because we're playing importer instead of exporter. So if you want to see your wages go up, if you want to see it easier to get a job, if you want to see manufacturing come back into the cities, into the towns that look freaking demolished because they're empty and look like ghost towns, this is what needs to happen. It is a short-term burn for a long-term success, and it's a brilliant thing on Trump's part.
David Omquist. What's going to take place or happen with the Patriots being held and tortured in prison for the 2020 setup by the politicized FBI?
We're talking about J6. J6. So what's going to happen to these people who are in prison right now? I can only go off Trump's words. And I know that Trump's words sometimes change based on what teleprompter he looks like he's looking at, or when he goes off teleprompter. But for the most part, Trump has vowed that he is going to pardon the J6ers, those who were not violent. So if there is somebody who was extremely violent and beat up on a cop for no reason, or sat there and smashed windows for no reason, Trump may not allow that person a pardon. But anybody else who has been treated unfairly and unjustly simply because per this person's comment, they are a prisoner of politics. I think Trump on day one, or maybe day two, is going to pardon the majority of them.
Linda Petronella Brooks. Are you happy that Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo will not serve in President Trump's second administration?
I'm ecstatic. I don't see the value of bringing anybody from the last administration back in. One of the guys that he's already done that with is Stephen Miller, who works a lot of the immigration policies with Trump. I'm not a big fan of Miller. He rid of a lot of good people last time because he wanted the entire spotlight for himself. But I'd like to see a whole new crowd in there. Nobody from, I mean, he put in John Ratcliffe. It just got, I think he's in charge of the CIA now. His chief of staff, Miss Wiley's, right? Is that what her name? Wiles or whatever it may be. She seems like a good one. And in fact, if you remember last Ask DML, somebody said to me, who do you think they'll pick for chief of staff? And I said, my pick would have been Lara Trump. If not, I said he's going to pick somebody from his campaign who he trusts emphatically. And I was right on that one. So I'd like to see all new people, all fresh faces.
Debbie Hobson. I'm wondering how they replace all the Congress people who are moving into cabinet jobs. When a Republican is taken, how are they replaced? Are they voted on, or does the governor appoint them? How does that work, and why take any at all?
Well, I'll start with the back. I agree. Why take any at all? Trump is dealing with razor-thin majority right now, and we still have seats that haven't been called yet. Now, as of the recording of this, we need 2 more seats to lock in the majority again. And I think there's 13 seats outstanding in terms of vote tallies that haven't been counted. I may have those numbers off by a small number here or there, but I think I got it right based on what I just read. When you're pulling from Congress, what it does is it forces what would be a special election in that state. And a governor has to hold a special election. He's got a certain time frame. Now, if there are delays to that, what Trump is risking is he's not going to be able to get laws passed. If that person, like, let's say Mr. Walz here in Florida, you know and I know that DeSantis is going to hold that special election lickety-split because he knows that Trump needs the person. And Walz comes from Florida and from a Republican stronghold. So the concept is I'm taking Walz to be a part of my cabinet, and you're going to have a special election, Ron DeSantis, and we're going to get a conservative in there so there's no concern. Okay, great. But now you look at what's her name? Stephanie, what's her name? Stefanik?
Elise Stefanik?
Elise Stefanik. I can never say her name right. She's from New York. Now, she's also in a district that is heavily Republican. I think she won her election by 25 points. But now you're resting on the heels of Governor Hochul, who hates Trump. And she's going to delay as much as she possibly can, especially if Elise is the deciding factor on a vote. And then take into fact that if a Republican has to miss a vote because they're sick, they're incapacitated for some reason, we may actually have some of Trump's agenda face delays because of this, and he will have nobody to blame but himself. So although, like I said, I'm 100% behind his picks, he's got his reasons why. I'm sure he's doing the math, but the inner circles that I read up on, they are all very concerned that he is picking people that are ultimately going to hurt the Republicans from getting through the MAGA agenda. I don't understand what he's doing, but then again, I'm sitting here at a desk and it ain't in the Oval Office.
2 questions from Patricia Simone. The first one, why does the U.S. have the presidential election in November, but inauguration isn't until January 20th?
It's a great question. I assume it has everything to do with the transition of power. Mm-hmm. There's a lot. I mean, the government is a big boat, man. You just can't turn it like a speedboat. It's the Titanic. You've got to turn it slowly. So the transition of power, there's a lot to do there. I mean, what are we talking about right now? Every question to me is about the cabinet picks. So it takes a lot of time.
Her second question, can anything be done to lower the cost of internet? I admit I don't understand how it all works, but could someone like Elon Musk get involved in lower costs?
It's funny you say that. The cost of internet has basically been dictated by the internet service providers. And unfortunately, the United States has not deemed it yet as a utility. So there should be, as far as I'm concerned, regulations on what it is that people are charged for. I personally believe that it should be free. All right. I think that internet should just be ultimately free. We have come to require almost everything in our lives to rely on online. And there should be no restrictions for anybody in this country to be able to have internet. And if you are poor and you don't have enough money to pay for internet, it's not fair. So our whole economy, our entire system has become an online venture, and everybody should have access to that in the same way they have access to air, right? You wouldn't start charging for air because a lot of people wouldn't be able to afford it and they'd die off. So it should be free. So to drive that cost down, it would really have to be something that the government would have to take over and just supply to people for free. Whether or not Elon Musk can get involved, well, now he's in a capacity to where he could do that, and maybe that's something he will address.
Judith Mano, have the numbers dropped in border crossings since Trump was elected?
Well, the border crossings have started to drop for the last couple of months because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris realized the fact that for as long as it was an open sieve, there was no way they were going to be able to win an election. What you're going to see now for the next month or two is you're going to see an uptick. And the reason why there's an uptick is because people right now are leaving and coming in here and trying to get in prior to Trump slamming it down. We saw the same thing happen in 2016. In 2016, the amount of surge that we had before Trump took over office, and even the first month after he was in, was astronomical. However, 3 months into his term, without signing a piece of legislation, it wound up dropping to 15,000 crossings. And the reason being is because to get here from Central America, let's say, you're looking at about a 3-month journey, especially if it's on foot. And so if you're going to leave, you've got to leave 3 months in advance. So think about how April had 15,000 crossings after Trump was in there. That's 3 months. And so as soon as Trump is in, people said, all right, I'm not coming anymore. And then it dropped significantly. So we've seen a downturn for political reasons on the Biden-Harris end. You're going to see an uptick in people trying to get here before Trump gets in. And once Trump is in, that number is going to plummet. And Trump's going to be able to take a victory lap.
Miriam Kennedy, would it be possible for President Trump on his first day of office to order every Democrat out of the White House?
People who are working in the White House do so because the president wants to have you there. And if the president doesn't want to have you there, he's going to shit can you. It's basically the best way to say it. I think Trump's chief of staff is the one who's in charge of that. So what she'll do is she's going to make a list of everybody, and anybody who is a loyalist to Obama, Biden, Harris, whatever, she's going to rid of. But there's a lot of people that make that White House function. So it's not going to be like it could happen overnight. But I think you're going to see, I think Trump learned his lesson from last time. It took him almost 2 years to kind of get the gears in order. And now I think he's going to work at feverish speed, have the right people in place. So this way, within 6 months, he's got his whole team assembled and everything is just going boom, 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 boom. It's going to be an amazing ride.
Kim Donnelly, if we can control the House and Senate, will they finally implement closing our border? Will they finally put in term limits? And can we fix the medical system?
That's a lot of questions. So the first one's the border. Well, as I just explained in the last question, I think that once Trump gets into office, the people will stop coming because they know they're not going to get in. That's going to be number one. Number two is you're going to have Tom Homan start to deport. And those press releases about the deportations are going to be every day, and they're going to video it like I've been asking for freaking more than a decade. And that message is going to go out. So more people are going to self-deport. And we are going to see the lowest numbers at our border ever. And then Trump's going to put in other things like stick in Mexico and all these other different stuff, the Title 42, all that other stuff will start to come back. He will threaten Mexico with tariffs if they don't do that part. So I think we're going to see illegal immigration plummet very quickly. As far as healthcare comes, I think we have Obamacare for a very long time because you can't replace it unless you have something to replace it with. And that is the one thing I would tell you that nobody talked about during this election season. It was like healthcare was taboo. Don't talk about it. And I know my most expensive thing every single month is my health insurance. And I still got an unbelievably large copayment. So it would be one of the things that I would hope the Trump administration would apply their efforts to. I'd like to see him appoint somebody to that. I'd like to see somebody like Ben Carson be appointed to that. He's the only person from the first administration I'd like to see be back in the second one. And hopefully they'll address it sooner than later. The third question was
medical system, term limits, and border.
term limits.
Yeah.
I mean, I think term limits is imperative. I think Elon Musk will push for that heavily. The problem with that is that you're going to be asking these senators and House members to vote against themselves because many of them don't want to go out and get a real job. They just want to stay in their position forever and ever.
Carol Dugan Schnabel writes, DML, you would make a great press secretary. Should be noted that that position still hasn't been filled out yet in the Trump administration. So who do you think would make a good press secretary?
I wouldn't, because I don't want to go to Washington, D.C. And, you know, I have a nice life here in Florida, and I'd be more than happy for Trump to set up a great team so this way we could live our lives without having to. I'd almost like to see Trump put us out of a job, because if things are just going so smooth, you don't need us to report to you every single day. But I think that it has to be somebody who isn't star hungry. So I've heard everything from Vivek, bad choice because he's star hungry. Candace Owens, star hungry. I love the idea of Peter Doocy. And the reason why I like Peter Doocy, who right now is the White House correspondent for Fox News, is because Peter Doocy isn't looking to get TV time. He already has it. He is already a TV star, if you want to call it that. He understands how the press pool works, and I think he would be able to navigate that as well as anybody and be able to champion for whatever it is that Trump is looking to push in a way that is professional and articulate, and he would have the respect of the press pool, and he would give them the respect they deserve. He would be a far cry from that train wreck that's in there right now, that Raggedy Ann wannabe.
Question from Ashley.
Ashley, my daughter?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you think RFK Jr. can have a real impact on making America healthy again?
I do. I think if Trump allows RFK Jr. to run wild without many restrictions, just some checks and balances, I think that RFK will be the most hated man alive from the likes of Pfizer, from the likes of food companies, from the likes of Monsanto. But the farmers will love him. And I'd love to see America get healthy again. You know, it's funny. So many people, I know this from the DML News app. We can put up five stories. Trump, Biden, Harris, cause for cancer. Nobody's going to click on the cause of cancer. And meanwhile, these other four are meaningless if you don't have your health. I have never, ever, ever witnessed anybody who has had a health problem say, oh man, if I just had one more day to talk about politics. We have reversed what's important in this life. We have reversed what's important in this country. I mean, I always talk about it. When I was in grammar school, I had one kid who was obese, and I remember his name to date, even though he wasn't a friend of mine, because he was the anomaly. Today, he would be fitting right in. It's the skinny kid who would be the one that people will remember because he was the only one that was in good shape. We have allowed this country to go to hell when it comes to our health. And as somebody who tries to eat right and keep healthy, it is really hard because when you look at all of the different foods that are presented to us, it's almost impossible to find anything that doesn't have some kind of poisonous garbage in it. And so we are killing ourselves at the detriment to these food companies and these these Pfizers of the world who are looking to profit off our illness. So I think he's going to have a big impact for as long as Trump lets him run.
The next question comes from Ryan. How long until the economy makes a comeback?
I think we're going to see, hopefully the Fed will continue to cut rates, and Trump is going to, I think he's not only going to keep the 2017 tax cuts, but I think he's going to improve them to put more money in our pockets. So with all of that said, if banks start easing up and start lending money again at a more promising rate, I think from today out, you're probably looking at about 6 months. I think by the time April comes around, people are going to be thriving. The job market is going to be thriving. I think we're looking at 4 years that may be the most promising 4 years in our economic history.
Then, last two questions from me. What do you see as the future of media and news?
I think what we're about to watch happen is going to be astronomical in the sense that it's going to be so different than what we know today. In fact, I just did an interview on Tuesday with a therapist, Dr. Cardaris, and we were talking about mental health and how the election has really triggered people in a crazy way. I suggest people watch it because it's more about Democrats being crazy than the title we posted leads to. But I said to him at the end of the conversation, I want to talk to him about AI and how AI is going to impact our lives. Just from our standpoint, we're redesigning a whole new entire app. And our app is all based on AI and how it is that news is now coming in such real time that we can't even write articles quick enough. By the time we write an article, it's old news. So I think that the ability to get information in nanoseconds of when it takes place is going to be huge. And I think that the mainstream media recognizes its own death is imminent, and that citizen journalism and falling in love with podcasts, people that you could trust, like us. That's one of the reasons why we open our family to everybody. People say, you feel like family. So when I tell them that something happens, they'll trust it more than when they hear it somewhere else. So I think slowly but surely, maybe in the next 2 years, I think it's a 2-year shift, especially with Elon Musk being part of the Trump administration. I think you're going to see the traditional watching of ABC, NBC, and CBS Tonight, CNN, I think they're going to fall to the garbage. And I think that the independent media, things like we're doing here, if you could be creative and entertaining and insightful and reliable, I think that's the future of news. And in terms of media, look, movie theaters are dead. I hate to say it. I wish it weren't the case. And I think people are tired of paying $100 for all these different subscriptions for Amazon, this and Netflix and everything. I think you're going to see a new push for new types of movies and documentaries and drama that are all going to find their way on X. I think Elon's X platform is going to be the equivalent of the iPhone. I really do. I think it's going to be where everything stems from a media, news, and entertainment perspective.
And then for my last question, speaking of media events, who do you see winning between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul in their infamous fight coming up?
I got to tell you, notwithstanding the election, I have not been so excited to sit in front of a television and watch something in a very long time. I think that the fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson brings one risk. I think the entire world is going to be watching Netflix, and I'm afraid that I'm just going to have buffering on my television the whole time. I think it is going to be the most watched sporting event of all time on pay television. And I think that Mike Tyson is going to freaking end that man's boxing career. I really do. I think it is going to be a vicious fight that Jake Paul has no chance of winning. And if I was a betting man and I had $1 million to bet, I would put it on Mike Tyson. And if it turns out to be that this fight is a fake, both of those men are finished. Nobody will ever pay attention to them again. It's over for them. So I really believe this is going to be a real fight, and I think Mike Tyson is going to punish that young man in a way that he's not ready for.
That's it.
Who do you like for the fight?
Oh, Tyson. I think Tyson's going to wipe the floor with him.
Who do you like, Ryan?
I saw them like an interview, and like Tyson just had that stare. And like Jake Paul just looked uncomfortable, so I got Tyson.
You know, there was a video online. I saw it. It was really, really incredible to watch. It showed Jake Paul and his brother Logan tied up to a what are those truth-telling machines? What are those? A lie detector test. And Jake asked his brother, "Do you think Mike Tyson's going to beat me?" And Logan said, "No." And the thing went off. And then they reversed the question where Logan asked Jake, he said, do you think you're going to beat Tyson? And he said, yes. And the alarms went off. So for Jake Paul, he may just be saying, look, I'm going to make $40 million. Nobody's discussed how much money these guys are making, but Jake Paul kind of slipped out and said $40 million. I think for $40 million, he's willing to take a beating. And his objective at this point is just don't die. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Just don't die. He may actually take a couple of shots and then decide to stay down on the canvas. But for $40 million, he'll recover in a month. And
when is that fight?
it's Friday night, man.
This
It's Friday
Friday?
night, yeah. All right. That's it for us. Thank you for your questions. Go to dmlcbd.com/BOGO, B-O-G-O, dmlcbd.com/BOGO. Be sure to get your buy one, get one free before it ends. It ends on Sunday. On behalf of Ryan and Denny, we thank you so much for joining us today. And until the next time, God willing, will be tomorrow with, by the way, my best friend from childhood, Gav, is going to be my host on the Wine and Talk. So we should be with you here again tomorrow. That said, may God bless you, your family, these United States, and Donald J. Trump.
And today's Team DML blessing goes out to Victoria Peproda.
All right, Victoria, run with it. Talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.